You know that person who is clearly overwhelmed. Deadlines piling up. Exhaustion showing in their eyes. But when someone asks if they need help, they smile and say, "I'm fine, I've got it." For a lot of people, that person isn't someone else. It's them. And if you recognize that pattern in yourself, there's a reason it exists. Because the habit of never asking for help rarely comes from pride alone. More often, it starts as a survival strategy. At some point earlier in life, most people who struggle with this pattern did try to reach out. They showed someone they were struggling. Maybe they were dismissed. Maybe the other person became frustrated. Maybe the support simply wasn't available. Whatever happened, the brain noticed. And the nervous system did what it always does. It learned from the experience. When the brain detects that reaching out leads to disappointment or rejection, it adapts. Instead of relying on others, it builds a different strategy. Handle things alone. Solve problems independently. Become the capable one. The person who figures things out without needing anyone else. And for a long time, that strategy often works. People who develop strong self-reliance usually become highly competent. They solve problems quickly. They carry responsibility well. They rarely burden others with their struggles. But there's a hidden cost to that adaptation. Over time, the behavior stops being just a strategy. It becomes part of identity. I handle things myself. I don't need help. I'll figure it out. And once a behavior becomes part of identity, changing it feels much more threatening. Because asking for help no longer feels like a simple request. It feels like admitting something about yourself that contradicts who you believe you are. Research has shown another interesting layer to this. People consistently underestimate how willing others are to help them. In studies on social behavior, participants predicted that asking for help would inconvenience others far more than it actually did. In reality, people were significantly more willing to help than expected. But even when people learn this information, it often doesn't change the pattern. Because the barrier isn't purely logical. It's emotional. If someone has spent years building a sense of self around being independent and capable, asking for help can trigger something deeper. A fear of being seen differently. A fear of losing control. A fear of becoming a burden. So instead of asking, they push harder. They stay up late solving problems alone. They take on more responsibility than they should. They quietly raise the threshold of what they consider too much. And the longer this pattern continues, the more invisible their struggle becomes. From the outside, they appear strong, reliable, composed, but internally they may feel exhausted. There's another dynamic that often appears in relationships for people with this pattern. They give a lot, helping others feel safe. Being the one who supports, advises, or solves problems creates a sense of value without vulnerability. Giving feels controlled. Receiving feels exposed. So they become the dependable one, the person everyone relies on. But over time, relationships can become unbalanced. The person who gives begins to feel unseen. The other person may sense something is off but not understand why. And the person who struggles to ask for help often stays silent. Not because they don't need support, but because asking still feels impossible. Psychologist John Bowlby's work on attachment helps explain why patterns like this can become so deeply ingrained. Early relational experiences shape what he called internal working models. Mental templates that guide how we expect relationships to function. These models form early and tend to operate quietly in the background. They influence how safe it feels to express needs, how much we trust others to respond, and whether we believe our needs are acceptable in the first place. Because these patterns are tied to emotional memory rather than simple logic, they don't disappear just because someone understands them intellectually. Real change tends to happen through experience instead. Small moments where someone asks for something minor and nothing bad happens. Moments where support is offered and accepted. Moments where vulnerability doesn't lead to rejection. Each experience gently updates the nervous system. Over time, those new experiences begin to reshape the internal model of relationships. There's also an emotional layer that often gets overlooked. Grief. Many people who struggle to ask for help carry unacknowledged grief for times in the past when they needed support and didn't receive it. Acknowledging that loss can be an important step, because the strategy of handling everything alone originally developed to protect someone who didn't feel supported. And that strategy deserves recognition for the role it played. But strategies that once protected us don't always serve us forever. The strength that comes from independence is real. It builds resilience. It builds competence. But independence works best when it's balanced with connection. Human beings aren't designed to carry everything alone. Support systems exist precisely because no one can handle every challenge by themselves. Learning to receive help doesn't erase independence. It expands it. It allows people to remain capable while also being connected. And sometimes the first step isn't asking for something large. It's allowing one small moment of support, letting someone help with a task, accepting an offer instead of automatically declining it. Recognizing that needing help doesn't diminish strength. It simply makes space for something humans have relied on for as long as we've existed. Cooperation. And this is one of those patterns that, once it clicks, starts showing up in ways most people never connect. And if you've already noticed it here, there's a lot more beneath the surface worth paying attention to.